delighted to be down back on Radio Row. And actually, this is our last interview of the week, and a real kind of save the best for last moment, let's be honest. A man who is at the head of things at one of my favourite wrestling companies, in All Elite Wrestling, in, everyone's second team at least, and for a lot of people their first team in the UK. I grew up a 49ers fan, but I'm rooting for the Jags week in, week out in the AFC with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and of course his work with Fulham as well. Tony Khan's with us. Tony, how are you doing, sir?
I'm quite well, Will. Thank you for having me on.
No, we really appreciate your time, and I actually want to start in West London. I want to start with Fulham, because when we spoke here at Radio Row last year, you backed Marco Silva in a big way, and it looks like that has proved to be a pretty smart decision.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, it was a amazing start to the season, and right now things are going very well for Fulham, and I know for the supporters and everybody who loves Fulham, it's just been an amazing time to be a Fulham supporter, and for the people at the club. Marco has come in. He's been so positive, and I knew that from the first time we talked. And I first met Marco a long time ago. He was the coach of Everton. And, my experiences in terms of working with coaches in England, I have to say, for what I do for a living on the sports side, data analytics primarily, but also applying them to human decision-making, Marco Silva has been the best coach I've ever worked with. And as the sporting director and the head coach, we have a really close relationship, and Marco Silva manages the squad so well because he's an incredible leader. He's an incredible leader because he's a brilliant football mind, one of the top minds in football, and we felt that really strong from our first conversation when we first talked about Marco coming in. And the truth is, I only did one interview for head coach. We only talked to one person. It was Marco Silva. He was tremendous, and we thought it was the best person we could possibly hire. He's come in. He's rejuvenated the team, and I love working with him. We've, I think, found the perfect balance in so many ways of the squad that Marco came in. He saw so much talent in the Fulham squad that we could do and achieve better things, and then he's come in, and together I think working with him, he has great ideas on transfers, and together working with him on the transfers and loans, it's a great behind the scenes and talking the numbers, talking the ideas, and talking football. But then players want to play for Marco. He goes out, and he's such a great coach, and he's so positive. When people talk to him, you want to play for Marco.
You mentioned that about working with him on the transfers. I was wondering this, in your role as sporting director, I mean, there have been a few massive successes this year. João Palhinha, Bern Leno, Andreas Pereira have come in and been absolutely superb in getting you into those kind of upper echelons of the Premier League. How much are you working on that kind of, the data analytics recruitment side? How much is Marco involved? What's that kind of dynamic between the two of you?
Well, it's the thing. It's a partnership like all things, and I think that's exactly what it is. We talk, and I bring in the data analytics, and we watch the video, and Marco and I each have our opinions, and like we say, and we get on Zoom often because I'm always traveling for AEW and the great brand we've built, but also with Jaguars games, Fulham games. I love flying back and forth, but I see Marco on Zoom a lot and talk to him on phone a lot, and the communication's great. I have so much respect for Marco, and what we've seen has been so far the best season I've been a part of at Fulham, and the positivity. And it's like that behind the scenes, but I mean, we just go back and forth. It's real conversations about what we think, and then at the end of the day, Marco's leading the team out and doing an amazing job running the squad, and I'm still doing my job as the director of football, managing the transfers, and I'm still in charge of the transfers at Fulham, which is one of my favorite things in the world, while we're experiencing success really all over the world with Fulham in the Premier League, and the Jags just had a great season in the NFL.
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all.
And AEW now on in over 150 countries worldwide, and our great partnership with ITV makes us the #1 wrestling company in the world with a much bigger audience than WWE in the UK, where there are many more fans watching AEW every week, and that's what makes the ITV partnership such a great thing for us. And being with you and being able to do talkSPORT, it's a big deal because you have such a great audience, and it's funny because to be able to come here at the Super Bowl and be at the biggest media event in the world and have so many people ask me about AEW everywhere I go. It shows how great the brand has grown, but truthfully, as much as anything in the world, I love talking about Fulham and what's happening at Fulham. So I'm so glad, because I did in Radio Row in Arizona at the Super Bowl, I don't get asked about it as much as I'd like. So this, takes me back to West London, where I love so much, and the great Fulham supporters.
On that incredible season and where you are so far, have you dared to dream at this point European qualification? You're up in the spots right now.
Well, I think right now we're just focused each match, and Marco does such a great job preparing the squad, and I have so much respect for him and what he's been able to do with a great group of players. And match after match, you can see how hard the squad's battling, and a lot of thought and analysis goes into the squad selection. And Marco, when it comes to the tactics and managing the team, is as good as anybody. And I do believe, we can do really special things. We're capable of it, and I think the team has shown that. So, who's to say?
Let me ask you as well, within your role as sporting director, your father as the owner of the team, and Shad Khan, has a huge amount of respect for him as well. What have you made of the news over the recent days about Manchester City? And there's been a lot of conversation about how the rest of the Premier League are going to react, because financially you guys seem to be doing things the right way, and it can be frustrating that that's not necessarily always the case.
Well, it's challenging, and the world of football and finances is, there's a lot of things happening. I can't comment on what's happening with other teams. I just know the Premier League and the competition, you have to focus when you're working in football on what's happening in the season. And in the off season, you're still constantly thinking about operating the team and how to best take care of the club. And I think for us, I don't know what's happening really with other teams, and I couldn't comment.
That's fair. But, okay, let me ask you from this perspective then, because American football, the ownership of the teams, they are the kind of owners of the league. They are Roger Goodell's bosses. The decision is that the member clubs of the Premier League are going to come together, and they're going to vote on this, and they're going to look at do you think actually taking from that American model of having the ownership be involved in that process is a positive thing, like what you've seen from American football, that actually the Premier League teams should have some say in what happens either way?
Well, I think no matter what, having the teams pulling together for the best interest of the business is very important. I see it firsthand at the Premier League, and I've seen it firsthand. This is my 12th season working at the Jaguars and in the owners' meetings, and I've learned so much working in football for the Jaguars and at Fulham, and those NFL owners' meetings are really something. You see a lot of owners from the Premier League and from the NFL in there, but in the NFL owners' meetings, I think it's the most well-organized, well-run, most powerful, largest media organization in the world. And the NFL, so much of it comes from having the most important thing, the best players, the best product in so many ways that is the most watched product in the world. But I also think that the NFL has such a great business model, and the business is the owners and the great team around them that the ownership group and the key executives have built. And I think that owner involvement has been really positive when you have so many of the best business minds in the world in one room pulling to grow the business together.